Those who failed to move past the first ballot, as Ellison was pointing out, you need 15% voting threshold to move on to the next stage of this. Hence, you get this drama building around who gets the popular vote, who gets the delegate total vote, and all of that. It gets a little in the weeds here. Suffice it to say, there's no clarity just yet. Back with us, our panel here. John Bussey of the Wall Street Journal, looking at it. Obviously each candidate is going to have their own spin on this, but this is particularly a confusing year, isn't it?
Yeah. So they do this pretty much every time there's a caucus, Neil. You're going to the weakest candidates and you're saying, look, this is when the rubber meets the road. If you don't get the 15%, can you throw your support behind me? And it's deep politics. Each of the candidates is looking down the road, around the corner, and around the corner after that, about aligning with a certain candidate that they think might win. What happens if that candidate wins the election in the next administration? But some of these candidates also are looking just as far as the convention, Neil, because if it's a brokered convention, all bets are off, and you might have a greater significance remaining in the race rather than throwing your support behind somebody now.
That's a very good point. Inez, you could look at Iowa as sort of a metaphor of what that convention could be like, or sort of a preview of coming attractions where, no one gets a clear-cut victory on the first ballot in this case, but then all bets are off in the second ballot where superdelegates come in, and this could be an early test of that. What do you think?
Well, I think it's going to show that one of the major fault lines in the Democratic Party is going to be, broadly written, the Democratic establishment, let's say somewhere between Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama, right, in terms of policy and message. And then you have the candidates who are running as anti-establishment candidates. Now, obviously, Bernie has been surging in Iowa and New Hampshire. And then, as you say about the second round ballot, there was an interesting interview earlier with Andrew Yang, who said that a lot of his supporters might caucus in that second ballot, right? Of course, the first ballot is going to go to Andrew Yang, but because he's sitting at, around 3%, right, or 4% maximum, those votes could go to Sanders. That's what Andrew Yang himself was saying in the second ballot. And then the same thing with somebody like Amy Klobuchar, who's sitting right on that 9% threshold. If she can't make it over in some districts into the 15% that needed to get delegates, you might see her supporters then caucusing, for example, for Biden in the second round. So yeah, we'll have to see what happens, but there's definitely a fault line between the sort of anti-establishment candidates like Bernie, Yang, and Gabbard, and the more in-line establishment candidates like Joe Biden and Buttigieg and Amy Klobuchar.
Greg, I know there's increasing concern, not among the Bernie Sanders folks, they like it, but among others in the party that he is, peaking at just the right time, could win Iowa, could win New Hampshire, and many feel that he would be a sure loser as a nominee. You be careful with that. Many thought the same of Donald Trump with a Republican nominee. So getting that history and all, how real is that? How much of a concern will this build to be if he wins both in the next little more than a week?
It's a really big deal. And I would add, Neil, an even bigger deal was the new poll by the Los Angeles Times yesterday showing Bernie is surging in California, which is Super Tuesday, March 3rd. If Bernie should win California, I think that would send shockwaves throughout the party. We can argue all afternoon long whether he could beat Trump or not, but he'd be the underdog. But the big concern in the establishment in the Democratic Party is that he would drag down a lot of House and Senate candidates in moderate states.
All right, we'll watch closely. Guys, I want to thank you all. We have a lot of breaking news here, including the latest on the markets. A reminder, by the way,